Hey guys, it's Truck Doug. Today's Tuesday. I think it's towards the end of March. I know because I have a birthday coming up soon that is at the very end of March. And so I'm just getting myself mentally prepared for that. I'm getting over a cold right now, so if I'm sniffling and sneezing, it's not just my normal tick where I sniffle a lot, because that's one of my ticks that I have while I'm on camera. Apparently, I am working on it. But I thought I'd just make a video because I'm trying to take it slow today and just work on what's in front of me and not try and plan everything out 25 steps in advance. My wife keeps reminding me to do this, and I find it helpful to just try and focus on what's in front of you. I have two very big orders going out, very expensive transmissions that I'm building the converters for both of them. Both of them are really nice 258s. One of them's kind of a budget nice 258, and one of them's like a full baller, go ahead and spend my money for me 258. And let's take a look at them. Both of them are for customers that I'm going to be shipping the transmissions to. And this one ended up being a triple. And that's only because FTI sent me a triple kit instead of a double kit. And on this one, I'm using an A pump and a 15 blade stator. He's not quite making as much horsepower as this gentleman over here, who is making close to 1400 horsepower. And so I'm using a B pump with a 19 blade stator. Two totally different torque curves, and yet the more aggressive pumped one is going to end up stalling higher because of the torque input. But these are just seeing what else these might fit. I'm really growing fond of these. I've been buying these from Circle D. I did a converter for a Turbo 252 4L80 triple disc for a customer of mine who is still very patient in waiting on the FI New Power case. He's also getting that Sonex SmartTech module converted for 4L80 use. He's being very patient, but he wanted the converter done first to run this other 4L80. But at that time is when I found out about these, basically convert any billet converter into a bolt together kit. And these are from Circle D. So with about $300 in parts and probably, 4 or 5 hours in labor, for around $1,000, I can convert somebody's converter to fully bolt together. So that's pretty neat. And I was just testing it to see if it would fit on a 258. It doesn't. It also doesn't fit on this Super 9-inch, which I will get into that further. I was thinking that this was a 252. Ordered 252 parts for it. They came in. I'm like, that's not right. Let's get this in front of some smarter people. Took pictures, sent it to Ken at Independence Driveline, and he's like, no, actually that's a 9-inch, or looking at the turbine, because it was a 29 blade 9-inch turbine, he's like, that's what we called the Super 9-inch. And one of the issues with that converter was he needed a replacement turbine because the converter was just not acting right. So we went with a different stator and probably the more standard 21 blade turbine. And we'll keep this, I'll try and repair this. This was the one with the beat up turbine. And I did some repair. I did some silicon TIG brazing all around the edges. and kind of got it back into shape. And so we have a looser stator, a looser turbine, and a bolt together cover for that coming. FTI, when they do their bolt together kits, they don't offer them for any of their lockup converters. So for like Turbo 400, TH350, Power Glide, you know, the turbo spline stuff, you're going to be buying basically a cover and then a ring that welds to the impeller. With the Circle D stuff, you weld both the cover and the impeller to a separate ring. So you're doing two welds. So it costs a little bit more in labor to do it that way, but I think it's really nice and flexible because you can convert a converter that's already working good that you may just want to tweak a little bit on your own at the track here and there. You know, do a stator change or something like that. Shim the turbine farther away from the stator, etc. You know, there's different things to be done there, and I can help go into that if people are interested. But I have decided that for the 258s and especially the 265s, I really like the Circle D stuff because they use two different size kits. For FTI, when you buy a 258 kit, it's the same as their 265, just they make this cover very thick so that the 265 cover then goes on the outside of this, right? And maybe you do a little machine work to the turbine to make sure it clears the inside there. It's my preference to have the larger diameter and have the cover or the impeller fit inside of this thing. And it's a very complete kit. One of the things I like about the FTI kits, or excuse me, the Circle D kits, they put this nice fat radius on all their lockup converter hubs, which helps that O-ring slide in there a little bit smoother. And then they also put a roller bearing in the cover so that the turbine side is fully supported on every transmission. That's really important in your Turbo 400s, where most of the modern big power input shafts require you to remove the front stator tube bushing so they don't have to drill a hole through the input shaft for converter flow. And then today's machine work, I'm gonna set this pump up on here and machine a little slot here for high pressure use. And then I gotta knock these big bosses off so that my FI direct fit bell housing will go on there. Right now I'm just staging up a bunch of converters for later in the week and early next week when I'm gonna weld together a bunch of converters. Got a nice 258 for a 400. This is a street kit 245 that the customer decided to go upmarket on, but I already have it mostly assembled, so I'm just gonna finish it out and throw it on the shelf. These two are for the same customer. They were just cut and cleans. This is actually a street kit, but it's been highly upgraded. It's got a balloon plate on both the impeller and inside on the cover. So it's the old JAGS extra heavy duty, the one that's not really available anymore. And then this is just kind of your average OEM 4L80E converter, OEM size, but it's got the low or the high stall pump in the 19 blade stator. So that's probably, this thing probably stalls at, oh, it's beefy. It's probably gonna stall. Yeah, that's the 19 blade stator. It's probably gonna stall at around 2,600 RPM with any sort of power put into it. And he just wanted cut and clean. He didn't want to billet cover or anything like that. His transmissions are still a few weeks out, so It just so happens that sometimes I build the transmission first, and then I'm waiting to finish the converters, and sometimes I get to the converters first, and the transmissions are waiting to be built. And it only happens that way because I try and do a big batch of converters at a time. And my wife, who's been helping with tearing down transmissions, has limited time to help me. So sometimes I'll be tearing them down, and you know, I can do 3 transmissions in a day. But it's my preference to tear down 0 transmissions and work on something else. And then I think the last thing I wanted to show off was another modification to this little Vevor weld positioner. I told you guys that the biggest upgrade was going and getting a lower RPM motor. The one that it comes with is like 200 RPM. Get something around 80 RPM max, or maybe even just 50 RPM max. And then the next thing I did was I added this little voltage meter to the output of the speed controller. So why is that not working? Oh yeah. So it gives you the voltage. When you find a speed that you like for a given operation, you can just write that number down in your little notebook and say, okay, if I'm welding a hub that has an outside diameter of 2 inches, I want to use, you know, whatever it was, 19.5 motor volts. And that should be, you know, the same from time to time. I guess it's probably the easiest way of measuring RPM when you are less than 1 RPM per minute. And I think I'm gonna add that same thing to my big converter welder, because it's super handy to be able to not just try and eyeball it and then start the welder up and go, oh, it's moving too fast, let me turn it down, etc. You know, just have a record of what works for what diameter and what, you know, just like you document all your other things for any weld process, your wire speed, your amperage, etc., things like that. You know, you'll have your rotational motor voltage. And I think that's about it for today. Like I said, I'm just kind of moving slow because I'm getting over a cold, and it is doing that thing where sometimes it's really nice out and sometimes it's just awful out. And trying to stay on top of all the other things you got to do during the spring, like work on your house and stuff like that. I forgot about mowing my lawn. That happens like every 5 days in the spring when it's sunny and rainy, because your lawn just goes totally bonkers. But as you can see, I have a full board, and that feels pretty good. I know that at least for the next, 40 days or something like that, I'll be able to put food in my mouth. And hope you guys are doing well too, and we'll talk to you later, okay? All right. I'll give you an update on the Fox next video, okay? All right, bye.